Ladies, let me tell you something right now. You think no contact is enough. You think just falling off the grid is gone. Make him realize what they had. Now listen, I'm not saying disappear isn't a move, but baby, that's just step one. Step one. Silence isn't enough. Transformation is what echoes. See, a lot of people think that when you stop talking to someone, when you pull away, when you go no contact, that somehow that's the grand gesture. That's the message. But let me tell you something, silence by itself is just a pause. It's a break in the noise. But what really shakes somebody's soul, what really makes them feel your absence in the deepest way, is when your silence is filled with elevation. It's when that quiet becomes the background music to your growth. See, you can stop texting, stop calling, stop showing up. But if you're still sitting in the same emotional space, they're not missing anything. They don't feel the shift. They don't sense a difference. You're just absent, not elevated. And there's a big difference between gone and being grown. Silence might make someone wonder, but transformation makes them regret. When you change, when you evolve, when you walk into the next version of yourself with your head high and your spirit calm, that's when your absence becomes undeniable. People don't feel your silence. They feel your evolution. That's what gets into their mind when they're alone. That's what they remember when they scroll past your name or see a picture of you out somewhere, smiling different, glowing stronger, living fuller. It's not that you left, it's that you leveled up. And it's hard to forget someone who turned their pain into power while you were watching. Let me be real with you. If you want them to feel the weight of your absence, don't just go quiet. Go become something they were never ready for. Use that silence to build. Use that time to focus on the parts of you that were buried under all that waiting, all that hoping, all that emotional labor you were doing while they were giving you breadcrumbs. This is your time to shift the energy, not by saying anything, not by arguing, not by pleading your case, just by becoming. The truth is, people feel the contrast, not the distance. They notice when you were one way, and now you're another. When you used to be available, and now you're busy. When you used to shrink to make them comfortable, and now you're standing tall in rooms they never imagined you in. That contrast, it haunts them. It plays on a loop because silence is easy to ignore. But transformation, that's unforgettable. They might not say it. They might not reach out, but they see it. They feel it. When you stop reacting and start reinventing yourself, that's when everything shifts. That's when you stop being someone they used to talk to and start being someone they can't stop thinking about. And not because you chased them, not because you begged, but because you turned inward and started healing, building, becoming. Think about this. How many people go no contact and just sit in that silence, still hurting, still checking their phone, still hoping to be missed? That's not power. That's pause without purpose. But when you go no contact and you start moving, working on your goals, feeding your soul, aligning with your purpose, that silence starts making noise. Not noise like drama, noise like power. It commands attention without ever asking for it. So don't just go quiet. Don't just retreat. Make the silence mean something. Make it the birthplace of your next chapter. Let your transformation be the echo they can't escape. Let your growth speak louder than any words ever could. You don't need to explain what you're doing. You don't need to post it, prove it, or shout it. Real change is felt, not flaunted. The people who need to feel it, they'll feel it. And they'll feel it in ways words never could deliver. So don't just go quiet. Don't just retreat. Make the silence mean something. Make it the birthplace of your next chapter. Let your transformation be the echo they can't escape. Let your growth speak louder than any words ever could. You don't need to explain what you're doing. You don't need to post it, prove it, or shout it. Real change is felt, not flaunted. The people who need to feel it, they'll feel it. And they'll feel it in ways words never could deliver. Because silence is temporary, but transformation, that sticks, that lingers. That's what they remember at 2 a.m. when everything is quiet and they start wondering where you went. And more importantly, who you became while they weren't looking. Don't just disappear, glow quietly. It's not about vanishing. It's not about blocking somebody and going into hiding like you're trying to win some power game. This ain't about making them chase you. This is about reclaiming your energy and using that same silence they gave you to create something brighter within yourself. People always say, go no contact, like that's the final move. But no contact without growth. That's just going ghost. And baby, you weren't made to be invisible. You were made to shine. Glowing quietly means you're not loud about your process, but you're serious about your progress. You're not out here announcing every little move. You're not trying to make them jealous. You're not on social media faking happiness, hoping they notice. That's noise. What you're doing is deeper than that. You're getting your glow back from the inside out. You're rebuilding your peace. You're realigning your spirit. You're waking up each day and choosing to show up for yourself in ways you used to do for other people who never showed up for you. When you glow quietly, you don't need attention. You attract it naturally. You don't need validation. You become the validation, because real glow, that comes from healing. That comes from growth. That comes from being able to sit with your own pain and not let it define you. It comes from deciding that you're not going to be the same version of yourself who tolerated less, who settled, who overgave while being overlooked. You're done with that. And you don't need to make a speech about it. Just live it. You ever see someone who doesn't say much, but something about them just hits different? That calm energy, that peaceful presence, that strength that comes without the struggle being visible. That's what glowing quietly looks like. You become magnetic. Not because you're putting on a show, but because people can feel that you've grown, that you've matured, that you've risen. See, disappearing gives someone a break from you. But glowing gives them a mirror. It forces them to see what they lost, what they mishandled, what they didn't appreciate. It's not your job to make them feel that loss. But when you focus on becoming whole again, when you give yourself the love you were busy giving away, they can't help but notice that something shifted. And the best part, you didn't shift to get a reaction. You shifted because you finally saw your own worth. It's easy to disappear and stay stuck. It's easy to go silent and still be suffering. But glowing quietly takes discipline. It takes commitment. It means doing the work when nobody's clapping for you. It means smiling at yourself in the mirror because you know how hard it's been, but you also know you're not going back to who you were. It means creating peace in your home, clarity in your mind, and purpose in your days without needing anyone to notice. And trust me, they will. They always do, eventually. Because when someone knew you one way and sees you living a new way, even without a word spoken, something stirs in them. It's not about revenge. It's not about making them suffer. It's about you finally being okay with being your own light. You spent so much time dimming yourself for someone who never gave you the shine you deserved. Now it's your time, not to burn them, but to rise for you. Because when someone knew you one way and sees you living a new way, even without a word spoken, something stirs in them. It's not about revenge. It's not about making them suffer. It's about you finally being okay with being your own light. You spent so much time dimming yourself for someone who never gave you the shine you deserved. Now it's your time, not to burn them, but to rise for you. Glowing quietly means you no longer need to explain your value. You no longer feel the need to convince someone to care. You're not playing games. You're not sitting by the phone. You're living. You're learning. You're healing in ways that don't look glamorous on the outside, but are changing everything on the inside. And that inner glow, that's what becomes unshakable. That's what people remember. Not your silence, but your radiance. You don't have to shout that you've changed. You don't have to update the world on every step. Your presence, when it returns, or even if it doesn't, will tell the story. They'll notice you didn't come back the same. They'll feel the difference, not because you forced it, but because you earned it. You're no longer seeking closure. You've become it. You're no longer holding on. You've let go and found peace. And peace, real peace, is what makes you shine the brightest, even when you're silent. Level up after the break, not out of spite, but out of purpose. When you've been hurt, when someone you gave your heart to didn't value it, the first reaction for most people is to prove a point. They want to show the other person what they lost. They want to be seen, noticed, regretted. But the real power move is when you stop trying to prove anything and start living for something bigger, deeper, something rooted in who you are and who you're meant to become. Spite is loud, but purpose is lasting. When you do things out of spite, you're still letting that other person control the wheel. They're still in the driver's seat of your emotions. You're reacting instead of building. You're allowing your next chapter to be written in response to someone who didn't deserve to hold the pen. But when you level up with intention, when you decide to grow for your own soul, that's when the shift becomes real. That's when you start to build a life that's solid, something that doesn't collapse if they never notice or never come back. You've got to make your healing about you, not about them, not about who's watching, not about who regrets or claps or comments. Leveling up for purpose means getting honest about the parts of you that you neglected while you were pouring into someone else. It means choosing to focus on your mental health, your goals, your passions, not to post about it, but to feel alive again. It's reconnecting with yourself in a way that no apology or explanation could ever give you. You don't need a revenge body. You need a healthy body because you love yourself enough to care for it. You don't need to fake a new relationship. You need to learn how to love your own company. You don't need to flash a lifestyle you can't afford. You need to build a foundation that can't be shaken. Purpose isn't about impressing someone. It's about progressing into your highest self, into the version of you that you were always capable of being before you got distracted by someone who didn't see it. This is your comeback season, but not for the crowd, for the calling. You've got gifts. You've got talents. You've got dreams that have been waiting on you to stop doubting yourself and start showing up for yourself. Use the break, not as an excuse to sit in bitterness, but as a launch pad. Let the heartbreak be a turning point, not a dead end. Let it fuel you to rise up, not to throw shade, but to finally step into the space you were made for. People often think growth has to be loud and public, like it doesn't count unless it's posted. But purpose doesn't always look pretty. Sometimes leveling up means long nights reading, crying, journaling, praying. Sometimes it's saying no to distractions. Sometimes it's unlearning old habits, forgiving yourself, setting boundaries. And you might not get praise for that, but that's the real glow up. That's the kind of transformation that sustains, that lasts, that frees you. You don't have to change your hair, your style, or your circle to prove anything. But if those changes come from a place of truth, of alignment, of peace, that's when they matter, because that's when they stick. When you build out a purpose, your progress can't be undone. You won't need to fake strength. You'll become strong. You won't need to act happy. You'll find joy again. And that joy, that's not about them. That joy is your reward for choosing yourself. When you level up for you, not to show off, but to show up for your own destiny, everything shifts. Your energy changes. Your focus sharpens. You start attracting new things, not just people, but opportunities, clarity, peace. And that kind of shift, that's what leaves an imprint. That's what people feel even when you're not around. So don't let the break be a breakdown. Let it be a breakthrough. Let it be the chapter that teaches you how strong you really are. Let it be the moment you stopped shrinking and started standing tall. Leveling up out of purpose doesn't just change how others see you. It changes how you see yourself. It realigns you with what matters. It reminds you that you were never meant to stay small, confused, or waiting. You were meant to evolve, to expand, to elevate with grace, wisdom, and fire. Growth is louder than revenge. The problem with revenge is that it's rooted in pain. It's a reaction to being hurt, a desperate attempt to make someone else feel the weight of what they did. And while it might feel good for a moment, it fades fast. Because when you build your life around trying to make someone else regret losing you, you stay tied to that person. You keep yourself in the same emotional loop, repeating the same pain in different forms. But when you choose growth, when you choose to rise instead of retaliate, your actions carry a different kind of volume, one that echoes without you ever needing to speak. See, revenge wants an audience. It needs to be seen to feel like it mattered. But growth don't need applause. Growth just moves quietly, powerfully, purposefully. When you grow past the need to get back at someone, you free yourself. You step out of the trap of needing closure, needing payback, needing someone else's acknowledgement to validate your experience. You stop performing pain and start transforming it. People always think that the best comeback is to make the other person suffer, to let them see you with someone new, or to show them how quickly you've replaced them. But the truth is, when you're still focused on them, you're not really over them. You're just masking the wound. You're covering it with distractions. Real healing doesn't look like jumping into something new. It looks like sitting with yourself long enough to understand what you need, what you deserve, and what you refuse to accept ever again. Because here's the thing, they may not see your growth right away. They might not feel your absence the moment you pull away, but over time, people start to notice who stayed the same and who evolved. They start to feel the weight of what they lost, not because you threw it in their face, but because your life speaks for itself. The way you carry yourself, the calm in your spirit, the fire in your focus, that's what leaves a mark. You're not responsible for teaching someone how to value after they fumbled you. You're responsible for learning how to value yourself so deeply that you never let it happen again. And revenge will never teach you that. But growth will. Growth will show you how to protect your peace. Growth will teach you how to say no without guilt. Growth will bring you into rooms your pain could never take you to. It will make you magnetic, not because you're performing, but because you're aligned. Growth is not always glamorous. It's messy. It's quiet. It's full of moments when you want to break down, when you feel tempted to go back, when the pain feels too loud to bear. But if you sit through it, if you keep choosing yourself through it, you come out stronger, sharper, softer in the right ways and firmer in the ones that matter. And people feel that. They feel the change in your energy. They see the light that wasn't there before. They feel the distance, not just physically, but spiritually, because you're not who you were, and you're never going back. Choosing growth over revenge is choosing power over weakness. It's deciding that your energy is too valuable to waste on trying to prove a point, that your future is too important to let your past hold the pen, that your healing is sacred, and nobody else gets to define what that looks like. Revenge looks good on the outside, but growth feels good on the inside. And eventually, what's inside starts to show. It shows in how you talk, how you move, how you carry your standards, how you laugh again. It shows in the way you don't flinch at the things that used to trigger you, in the way you trust yourself now, in the way you've learned to love your own company. That's the loudest message you'll ever send, the life you build after the break, not of hate, but out of healing. No access to your evolved self is the real loss. See, the version of you that existed when you were still begging to be seen, still hoping to be chosen, still waiting on clarity. That version might have been easy to overlook. That version was trying, giving, stretching, showing up, even when it wasn't being reciprocated. But that version, it was only temporary. You hadn't even stepped into your full self yet. You were still learning, still shaping, still becoming. And the moment you stopped chasing what wasn't chasing you, that's the moment the evolution began. You don't stay the same when your heart breaks. You either break down or you break through. And when you choose to rise, to evolve, to heal, to grow, you become someone different, someone wiser, someone stronger, someone more grounded in who they are and what they bring to the table. And that version of you, the evolved version, that's the one they don't get access to. That's the one they lose. People always think what they lost was the version of you they had, the one that texted first, that forgave too quickly, that overlooked the signs, that showed up no matter how little they gave. But what they don't realize is that when you walked away, you didn't just disappear. You began to transform. You began to invest in yourself. You began to nurture the parts of you that had been neglected. And what they lost wasn't just access to your time. It was access to the person you were becoming, the upgraded, elevated, unshakable you. You've got to understand something. Your evolved self isn't for everybody. Not everyone is qualified to sit at the table of your next chapter. And if someone couldn't appreciate you when you were still learning to love yourself, they definitely don't deserve to benefit from the version of you that finally does. Your peace, your growth, your purpose, that's sacred. That's not something you hand out to people who only ever saw your value once they lost it. The real loss is watching you evolve and knowing they no longer have the key. Watching you grow and realizing they're locked out of the garden now. Watching you glow and understanding that they played themselves out of the best version of you. And the beauty is, you don't have to say a word. You don't have to prove anything. Your life becomes the evidence. Your energy becomes the boundary. Your evolution becomes the lesson. When you're doing the work, when you're healing from the inside out, you start carrying yourself differently. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You stop shrinking. You stop trying to make people stay. You start protecting your space. You start honoring your intuition. You start building a life so rich in peace, love, and purpose that anyone who doesn't match that vibration simply can't find a place in it. There's a power in not going back, in choosing to keep moving forward, even when the past tries to knock on your door. Because sometimes people come back not because they miss you, but because they miss the access to your energy, your support, your consistency. But what they don't realize is that version of you is gone. Not out of bitterness, but out of growth. Not of revenge, but out of self-respect. And when you truly evolve, you don't just change how you show up. You change who you show up for. You stop entertaining confusion. You stop accepting half-love. You stop pouring into cups that never once filled yours. You create a new standard. And that standard is built from all the things you learned when you were breaking. It's built from the tears, the nights of overthinking, the disappointment, the lessons you had to learn the hard way. All of that shaped you into the evolved version of you that exists now. And that version of you, that's gold. That's rare. That's the prize. So no, they didn't just lose the relationship. They didn't just lose the conversations, the laughs, the attention. They lost the opportunity to grow with you. They lost the front row seat to the greatest comeback you'll ever make. They lost the evolved you, the version of you that finally knows your worth, honors your peace, protects your space, and no longer makes room for people who couldn't love you right the first time. Let your silence speak volumes. There comes a point when words no longer serve you. You've said what needed to be said. You've expressed the hurt, the confusion, the disappointment. You tried to make it work, tried to get them to see your value, tried to hold on just a little bit longer, hoping something would change. But after all that, when your soul gets tired and your peace becomes the priority, silence becomes your loudest message. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. Not because you have nothing left to say, but because you finally understand that not everyone deserves a response, an explanation, or continued access to your energy. Silence is misunderstood. People think it means weakness, that you're backing down or that you don't care. But real silence, the kind that comes after chaos, is power. It's clarity. It's the realization that your time, your presence, your peace are too valuable to be wasted trying to prove a point to someone who was never listening in the first place. You don't owe anyone a final paragraph. You don't owe them one last conversation. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is choosing yourself and saying nothing at all. Letting your silence speak means stepping back and letting people sit with the absence of your voice. It means creating space, not to manipulate, but to heal. It's giving yourself the room to hear your own thoughts again, to feel your own feelings without being interrupted by someone else's noise. Because healing doesn't happen in noise. Clarity doesn't come when you're constantly reacting. Growth doesn't start until the noise stops. And sometimes the only way to get to that stillness is to cut the cord and be quiet. Silence gives people time to feel what they ignored when you were loud with love, when you were vocal about your needs, when you were present, available, and consistent. Your silence allows them to notice the space you used to fill, the energy, the warmth, the comfort they took for granted. You don't have to remind them. You don't have to call them out. Just let the silence speak. It always does. Over time, it echoes. Silence gives people time to feel what they ignored when you were loud with love, when you were vocal about your needs, when you were present, available, and consistent. Your silence allows them to notice the space you used to fill, the energy, the warmth, the comfort they took for granted. You don't have to remind them. You don't have to call them out. Just let the silence speak. It always does. Over time, it echoes. But even more than what it says to others, silence speaks to you. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you to pause instead of react. It teaches you to sit with discomfort without trying to numb it or chase closure. Silence is how you start to hear your own voice again. It's how you reconnect with your intuition, with the part of you that already knows what's right but got drowned out by emotion and noise. That quiet is where healing lives. That's where peace waits. The world wants you to stay loud, especially in pain. It wants you to rant online, argue in texts, prove your side of the story. But silence doesn't need an audience. Silence doesn't need validation. Silence is your spirit telling you that peace is more important than proving anything, that your next move isn't something to be broadcast. It's something to be protected, that not everything needs a response, and not everyone deserves one. There's dignity in silence. There's strength in being the one who chooses not to retaliate, not because you're weak, but because you've grown. You've evolved past the point of needing someone else to understand your worth for it to be real. You've stopped performing pain and started preserving peace. That's what silence does. It protects your power. It pulls your energy back where it belongs with you. And understand this, not everyone can handle your silence. Some people thrive on the chaos, on the back and forth, on the drama. Your silence starves that. It removes their power. It forces them to sit with their choices without your voice softening the impact. And eventually they'll feel it, the absence, the distance, the space where your love used to live. But that's not your responsibility anymore. Your only job is to protect the peace you fought so hard to earn. Silence doesn't mean you're done feeling. It doesn't mean you've forgotten. It means you've chosen to focus on yourself. It means you've chosen growth over gossip, peace over pettiness, and healing over hurting. And in a world that wants everything to be loud and visible, choosing silence can be the boldest, strongest, most powerful move you ever make. Let it speak. Let it echo. Let it carry you truth without you ever having to say another word. Don't wait to be missed. Be unforgettable. Too many people spend their time after the end of a relationship sitting in the shadows, wondering if the other person is thinking about them, regretting losing them, replaying old memories. They hold their breath, hoping their absence will leave a void. They shape their next steps around the idea of being missed, being longed for, of being wanted again. But living your life in hopes that someone will notice you're gone is not living. That's surviving on the hope of someone else's recognition instead of thriving in your own power. Being unforgettable isn't about making a statement for someone else. It's about showing up in your own life so boldly, so fully, so unapologetically that you leave a mark wherever you go. It's not about revenge or regret. It's about being rooted in your truth. It's about living with purpose, with passion, with grace. Because unforgettable people aren't chasing validation. They're walking in alignment. They're doing the work, honoring their path, and lighting up the spaces they enter without needing anyone to applaud. You don't become unforgettable by being loud or flashy. You become unforgettable by being real, by being authentic, by being someone who chose peace when chaos called, someone who grew when pain knocked them down, someone who didn't lose themselves trying to keep someone else. It's your energy that makes you unforgettable, your presence, the way you carry people when you love them, the way you held space, listened, gave, tried, and most importantly, the way you rise after being hurt. This isn't about pretending you're okay to get someone's attention. This isn't about faking a glow up just to be seen. This is about deciding that even if no one ever claps, even if no one ever says, I miss you, even if they never acknowledge the loss, you will still be whole. You will still live fully. You will still choose joy, even if your heart is still mending. That is unforgettable. That is strength. That is power. Because at some point, the question isn't, though they miss me. The real question is, have I become someone even I can't forget? Someone who stands tall in truth. Someone who radiates from the inside out. Someone who built a life they don't need to escape from. That's when it shifts. That's when your focus leaves their memory and turns to your legacy. Let your life be your loudest response. Let your peace be your punctuation. You don't need to be in the room for your presence to be felt. You don't need to reach out for someone to feel your absence. You don't need to perform pain or exaggerate your joy for someone else's sake. When you are living in your truth, when you are walking with purpose, your energy speaks for you. Your growth tells your story. Your transformation becomes the echo that lingers in the hearts of those who once had access to you. And not everyone will admit it. Not everyone will send up, I miss you. Text or reach out and confess they didn't know what they had. But that's not your concern. You're not here to be remembered in someone's moment of weakness. You're here to be remembered because your presence is powerful, because you're the kind of person that, once felt, is never truly forgotten. And not because you're trying to make them remember, but because you finally remembered yourself. You remembered the dreams you put on hold, the passions you silenced, the voice you toned down to keep peace. You remembered the parts of you that existed before the pain. You remembered who you were before you made yourself small. And as you rise back and enter that truth, and even beyond it, you become a version of you that no one can replace. You weren't meant to be background noise in someone else's life. You weren't designed to be forgotten. You are meant to take up space, to shift the atmosphere, to be a presence that brings peace, fire, wisdom, and light. And the more you walk in that, the less you care about being missed, because you understand now, being missed is passive. Being unforgettable is power. It's legacy. It's living in a way that, whether they speak your name or not, they feel what you brought long after you've gone.